Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. So, I hope everything good at your end. We will start today with packages. We have already covered most of its part, a quick review of packages, and then we'll move towards interfaces. There is meeting time 12:15. Yes, every day 12:15. It's already 12:15. Eh? So we will start at 12:15, end by probably 1:20, and then we'll resume at 2:15 and end by 3:30. So I can see only 8 people have joined. I'm hoping more to join. In any way, by the way, by tomorrow I will upload your mid-exam on CMS. I was waiting to show you copies before I can upload result on CMS, but seems like you people will further be delayed. So at least I wanted you people to know your mid result so that you can take your decisions related to continuation of this course. So I'll be uploading your marks on CMS hopefully by tomorrow afternoon or evening. So you people can see your results. I've already assessed all these copies. They are laying on my table. Result is not very encouraging. I mean, I'm not very happy with the result. Uh, Only few students have been able to score in excess of 15. Otherwise, mostly score is less than 15. But certainly, is not something um, I should be feeling very happy. It seems like you people have not taken this course seriously. It seems like you people are not reading the book. I've been saying from the very first day, read the book and do a lot of practice. These are the only two ways you can be securing good grade in this course. Otherwise, I'm not sure I can do anything for you if you people are reading the book. I can guarantee a failure if you really do not read book properly. There are some students whose answers when I was reading, I was feeling very proud. They have written very well. I really appreciate them. Their score is in 18 and 19. But most of these students are below 15, even below 10. And that's not a very good result. I don't know why many people have not joined today. Amit, go ahead. You can come in.
सर एक इशू डिस्कस करना था आपके साथ।
Mhm.
सर एक्चुअली जो मेरा प्रोजेक्ट पार्टनर था ना, तो उसने कल मुझे बताया कि वो विड्रॉ कर रहा है। पहले उसका पेपर था जो सी प्लस का, वो रिकाउंट के लिए चला गया था। तो अभी वो हमने कुछ मीटिंग में रखी थी, हमने कुछ प्रोजेक्ट आइडियाज भी डिस्कस किए थे। तो अभी वो बोला मैं विड्रॉ करूंगा। तो सर मुबीन से मैंने बात की, मुबीन भी अकेला है प्रोजेक्ट में, तो मैं उसका ज्वाइन कर लूँ
मुबीन
अगर आपकी
के साथ
परमिशन हो तो।
ऑलरेडी कोई है। मुबीन को तो मैंने पार्टनर दिया हुआ है। मुबीन, दिस इज सेक्शन डी है।
मैंने कल उससे पूछा तो वो बोला मेरा
नहीं
कोई
नहीं,
भी नहीं है।
मुबीन के साथ है यार, ऐसे नहीं करो। मुबीन को मैंने दिया हुआ है शाहजमान अब्बासी। मुबीन, आर यू देयर? Yes, Mubin, you can comment. You have Shazama Abbasi with you, eh? Mubin, are you there? So, Amit, in that case, you will have to work alone. If you do not have any group partner, if your partner has withdrawn, I mean, certainly we cannot change group formation every day. Now, the only reason why would you be working alone is if your group partner has withdrawn from the course. Otherwise, you will have to work in the group. Yes, Amit.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will work alone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so groups I have already finalized. Just a final word related to groups. If you still feel that your group partner is going to withdraw the course, only then you can work alone. But if I come to know after submission of your idea that you are working alone, even though your partner has not withdrawn from the course, then in that case, both of you will secure F. I really do not want you people to take a solo flight. I want you guys to work in a team. And the only reason why you should not be working in a team is if your fellow is withdrawing from the course. For all other reasons, you have to work in a group. Rahul, that's okay. I mean, if your partner has withdrawn from the course, then you can work alone. Otherwise, there is no reason that you will be working alone. And by the way, this course project, if you work in a team, it's okay. But even if you work alone, it's not a big deal. It's not a very, high-fi project that I'm expecting a lot from you guys. No, no, no. I'm just expecting a very basic, implementation of some real world problem. So even if you're working alone, it should be okay for you. But remember, working alone is not a preferred option. I want you guys to develop your team skill. I want you guys to, coordinate with your fellows so that you can also build your team skills. Working alone is not preferred, but if it is inevitable, only then I can allow it. And I have told you the reason, the one reason, if your partner is withdrawing, that's all. No other reason will be entertained. Okay, so let's start. In the previous class, sir, IDE का थोड़ा बता दें. IDE का क्या मैं बताऊं? I mean, you just download NetBeans, install. You can see on my machine, NetBeans is already installed. Working with IDE is really walk in the park, not a very difficult thing. कौन सी यूज करें प्रोजेक्ट में आई मीन नेटबीन इज एन ऑप्शन IntelliJ is an option eclipse is an option IntelliJ I used to have it on my machine but not anymore but for Java I usually use NetBeans other two options are Eclipse and also IntelliJ. So you just write in the Google, download IntelliJ, download NetBeans with JDK, right? So you will be taken to this URL. From here, you just choose the operating system you want to work with, right? It's Windows or Windows this. Download it. It's executable. Double click it. When it has been installed, you will see this shortcut in your start menu, NetBeans. When you have installed it, you will do a new project, right? Remember, all the projects are in this side plan, right? I've been using NetBeans for ages. You can see lots of my research implementation is also in NetBeans. I've been using a lot. I mean, NetBeans and my relationship is almost 15 years long. So when you are new to the NetBeans, you will create a new application, a new project. You must ensure that it is Java application. From categories, you select Java, and from projects, you select Java application, right? Then, I mean, all other Java FX, Java Web, you have to ignore them. You just make sure that you have selected Java, and from here, Java application. Then click next. This will be name of your project. For example, I can write here section D, section D, first project, right? So you write this here, click on finish. This will appear here. This will appear in projects. You can see here, this is our new project, section D, first project. So this will come into this list. I have all these my projects, and this one is the one which we have just created. And by default, what does it do? It will keep your file inside this package. We've already covered package, right? And the package name is section D project. You don't need to worry about it. And then it also creates a by default a class section D first project, and also it has main method already written for you. Right now, any coding that you want to do, you will have to do it here. For example, here says system dot out dot println hello world, right? And then semicolon. Once if you have done this, you want to run it, right click. Here we have run file. When you click on run file, this code will execute and you will see output here. You can see hello world has been displayed. Right, very simple. Install NetBeans, create new project, and when you create a new project, you will have this type of Java file already available to you. If you want to add another Java file, then you will in the source package here you can right click new Java class. Right, the name of this class I can write here my class. Right, so you have created my class. You can see now my class and this section D first project.java, both of them are in same package. Right, so you can add as many class files as you want. So simple NetBeans. I think it's a good idea that now we shift to the NetBeans. Enough of notebook and notepad and command line. We can now shift to the NetBeans. So maybe from next Friday, when we'll be shifting towards graphical user interface and Java IO, I will be using NetBeans. But if you want to start work on your project, you can start using NetBeans from today. I am comfortable with NetBeans. That is the reason why I usually when I work on Java, I use NetBeans. But if you people are more comfortable with IntelliJ or with Eclipse, you are free to use it. Because mostly I've seen that students are more comfortable with Eclipse than NetBeans. But for me, because I've been using it for many years, so I'm more comfortable with the NetBeans than any other IDE for working with Java. Okay, so in the previous class, we discussed about packages. We discussed that packages provide you increased namespace. I also gave an example of flat number 1, flat number 2, flat number 3. And if you do not have Plaza, then you cannot reuse same flat number for another flat. And then because packages provide you easier management of classes. We have already seen this in previous class. We saw how to define a package by using package statement. Then we also discussed about the directory structure of packages and how to find it in the class path. We also saw loads of example of packages and access modifier. We said that there are 4 levels of access: subclass in same package, non-subclass in same package, subclass in different package, and classes that are neither subclass nor in same package. These are the 4 levels. The 5th level is obviously the common sense level when you are inside same class. So that can be the fixed level where everything is accessible. We saw this one. We actually practiced all these 5 levels. When you are in the same class, you will have access to private member variable as well as private methods. Default will also be accessible, protected will be accessible, and public will also be accessible. But when you are in same package and subclass, only private is not accessible, everything else is accessible. When sub-package and non-subclass, private is not accessible, default is accessible, protected is accessible, and public is also accessible. When different package and subclass, you can see private is not accessible, default is not accessible. I mean, usually default is known as package level access modifier. You can see Now, when we are inside same package, default is always accessible. But when we are in different package, default is not accessible. So they usually say that default access modifier is actually a package level access modifier. It is only accessible inside package. Then protected is accessible if it is subclass, and then public is always accessible. Different package and non-subclass, private is no, default is no, protected is also no, and then public is yes. We did loads of example in our previous class. Importing package by using import statement, we saw how to work with that. Now today we'll start with interfaces. Now remember, like a class, we have a construct in Java that is known as interface. Remember when I first explained class, I said that a class is a blueprint, or it's a map, or it's a kind of you know, what should I say, an abstract definition for an object. What we will have inside an object, we can define that inside a class. And a class will have two things: member variable as well as member methods. Right. Now, interface is also a construct in Java which will have both methods as well as member variable. So in a way, you can say interface are similar to the class. There are certain differences. We must understand that there are differences. But the thing is, interface will also have member variable as well as methods. But the only change is member variable inside interface are always final. You cannot change them. And the methods are abstract, which means that inside interface, the methods will be abstract. Point number one. Point number two, I mean, prior to JDK 8, there was no possibility of having non-abstract method or a method with body, though after JDK 8, they have introduced this mechanism. But you need to understand that the primary goal of having an interface is to have abstract methods, right? Now, because in an inside interface, you got those abstract methods, so certainly interface cannot be instantiated. It is absolutely not possible to create an object of interface, although you can declare its reference. So the bottom line is you can have a reference of interface, but you cannot instantiate it. Now, when you have got a reference of the interface, then you know object of classes which can be stored in that reference will be the classes which are implementing this interface, right? I mean, in Java, we do not have multiple inheritance possible, though multi-level inheritance is possible, but multiple inheritance is not possible, right? But multiple inheritance advantage can be accomplished in Java by using interfaces. Although a class cannot extend from multiple other classes, I mean, multiple inheritance in Java is not possible, but a class can implement multiple interfaces. We can have a class which implements multiple interfaces. I'll come back to this point, but for the timing, let us first see a couple of examples. I start with the notepad. Notepad, right? So say for example, if I declare my interface, I have a class, not class, but an interface. So interface is a keyword. The way class is a keyword, interface is also a keyword. So I've got an interface with the name my interface. Right. Now inside this interface, I have got integer. I say value, which is equal to 50. Right. And say, for example, I have a method which says show value. That's it. I mean, this is going to be an abstract method. Though I have not written this as abstract, but by default, methods inside interface are abstract, right? So I call it my interface dot Java. Right. Let's compile it. Java C my interface dot Java. So you can see this has been compiled. You cannot differently execute it. Eh? Come on, this is just interface. Eh? We do not have any main method in it, so you cannot run it. You can see we cannot run it. Right. So we have interface which has got one member variable and one method. You can see I never needed to write here abstract. I mean, had you been inside a class, then it was mandatory to explicitly mention that this method is abstract. Because if you do not provide body to a method, then you need to explicitly mention this is an abstract method. I mean, inside abstract classes, that was the requirement. And inside abstract classes, we can have abstract method as well as non-abstract methods, right? But interfaces are primarily for abstract methods, right? So here you can see we have declared one member variable which is value, and by default this member variable is final. You cannot update its value. And second is we have a method which does not have any body, which is an abstract method. Now you might argue, what is use of interface? I mean, the answer is very simple. The use of interface is abstraction. It is just to indicate what we want to be done. We're not telling how it should be done, but it is what it should be done. In real life, we have abstraction in practice. That is the reason why abstraction should also be, implementable inside programming. And Java implements abstraction through abstract classes and as well as through interfaces. Right. So here we are saying that the method name is show value, which means that this method should be able to show value. How it will do, we are not explaining. We are only saying what this method should be doing, but how it will be doing, we are not explaining. We'll see more complicated example where you will see that abstraction in action will actually be helping us a lot to hide underlying details. Right. Now, once if you have declared an interface, its uses, some classes will be implementing it. Right. You can see here, I have a class. I call it my class, and that implements my interface. This class implements my interface. Right. Now, this class might have its own, say, for example, public static void string arg. Right. It has got this main method system.out.println. I say for example, hello world. Right. Now see, this is a class which implements my interface. Now it is mandatory for my class to give implementation of all the methods which are declared inside my interface. Now inside my interface, you know that we have this show value. So now it is the responsibility of my class to to give implementation of this method, to give body of this method. If it is not giving, then the code will not be compiled. The code will not be compiled. So if I say my class dot Java and CLS Java C my class dot Java, you can see it says my class is not abstract and does not override abstract method show value in my interface. Right. So you can see it complains. So it is absolutely mandatory for this class to give implementation of a show value method. Right. So void show value, and we are going to system.out.println. I say the value is, and what I'm doing, I'm accessing value from the interface. Now, because we are implementing my interface, so anything which my interface has declared is automatically available inside my class. But remember, that is final. I mean, you cannot change this value. You can access it. You can say I'm accessing value, and value is not available in my class, but I can still use it because it is available inside my interface. Right. So now what I've done, I have given implementation of method show value, and I'm accessing the value. Now this should be compiled. Now this should be compiled. Okay. Show value. SHOWVALUE. SHOWVALUE. Now here we see an issue. See, this syntax error has actually highlighted another important point. Read the error. It says show in my class cannot implement show value in my interface, attempting to assign weaker access privilege. Remember, although we have not made this method as a public method, but by default, methods which you declare inside interface, they are public and they are abstract, right? And you also know the rule of access modifier. If you have got a public method in the base class, in the derived class, you cannot make it more restrictive. I mean, it is completely okay if you have got a default in the base class, and if you make it public, Java will not complain. But if you have got a public and you try to make it default, then Java will complain. So in this case, although we have not made this method as a public method, but they say by default, method inside interface are public and abstract, which means that this is a public method. And when it is public, you cannot assign more restrictive access modifier. You cannot assign it here a default access modifier. You can see inside class, I have assigned a default access modifier. I cannot do it because default is more restrictive than public. So you have to, in any case, declare this method with the access modifier public. Right. Now it should be compiled. Right. And by the way, we won't be able to see this output. It will only say hello world, because we are not calling this. We are not calling this method. And if you want to call this method, I cannot call show value. The reason being the method is not static, and I'm trying to call it from within a static context. So what I can do, I can create object of my class, right? And then on this object, I can call this method. Right, so you can see here Java C Java, so you can see the value is 50. And by the way, if you try to change value, you cannot, because it is final. Because it is final. So all the member variables which are declared inside interface, their value is final. You cannot update it. You can see if I try to update it, I cannot. You can see here Java C my class. You can see cannot assign a value to final variable value equal to 20. Right, because the value is final, so you cannot assign it. Though you can access it, but you cannot assign it. Right. So let me just summarize. Point one, interface means you can have member variable inside interface, and you can have abstract methods. So the primary role for having an interface is to have abstract methods. Right. Point number one. Point number two, interfaces cannot be instantiated. Certainly they cannot be instantiated because they've got only abstract methods. And why would you call abstract method? Because they do not have any body, right? So when you have declared an interface, its main use is you will be implementing it in some class, right? So a class will extend from another class, that is inheritance. But a class can also implement an interface, right? So in this case, you can see my class is actually implementing my interface, right? So the keyword is implements. So when you are implementing interface, you will use keyword implements, and when you are inheriting from another class, you will use keyword extends. Now, if a class has implemented an interface, then it is the responsibility of the class to give implementation of all the abstract method inside the interface. In this case, there was only one, so certainly we had to give implementation of this method. And remember, the method in the interface is public, so we cannot change this access modifier. It has to be public. And the second point is value inside interface are final, so we cannot update those values. Right. And by the way, I have here declared reference of my class, but I can also declare reference of my interface. My interface. So say for example, the reference name is my interface. And I can still call show value method. I can still call show value method. You can see this will have no effect. This will have no effect on the code execution. It is still fine. You can see this is still fine. That's great. So you can see I can still call same method, but obviously, see here, public void void another method. Say for example, and this does nothing. This just says system that out that println hello world from within method. Right, hello world from within method. Right, now you know that on mi I can call show value because this is the overridden method, but on mi I cannot call another method, mi dot another method. The reason being this method is not coming from the interface. That is the reason why this reference does not have any information about this method. So you can see here, if you try to call this method, it should be raising an error. Java C. You can see method, another method, variable mi of type my interface cannot find symbol. But if this is the reference of my class, for example, this mi is reference of my class, then that should be okay. You will see that, then that's okay. Right? You can see now it has been compiled. So you need to understand, you can have a reference of interface type. You can have a reference of interface type, but then you can call only those methods which are overridden from the interface. So on this mi, we can call show value, but we cannot call another method because another method is a method which is the own method of my class. This is not a method which my class is overriding from interface. So that is the reason why calling this method on this reference will not be possible. Okay, so yes, Sanjay, go ahead. Go ahead. You can ask questions, Sanjay.
सर सर जो हम इंटरफेस यूज कर रहे हैं इसके अलावा हम मतलब अगर क्लास को एब्स्ट्रैक्ट बना दें फिर भी तो हम ऐसे ही यूज कर सकते हैं ना कि इंस्टेंशिएट भी नहीं कर सकते एंड
हाँ,
उसमें भी मतलब तो सर फिर डिफरेंस क्या होगा?
संजय दो डिफरेंस हैं। एक ये कि आपके एब्स्ट्रैक्ट क्लासेस के अंदर नॉन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट मेथड्स भी हो सकते हैं ना, आपके एब्स्ट्रैक्ट क्लासेस के अंदर नॉन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट मेथड भी हो सकते हैं। एक वो, दूसरा ये कि समटाइम we want multiple inheritance. Now in Java, multiple inheritance is not possible, but in Java a class can implement multiple interfaces. For example, ये इस तरह से तो पॉसिबल नहीं है। देखें, अगर मैं लिख रहा हूँ क्लास, क्लास A extends B and C, this is not possible in Java. This is multiple inheritance. ये वाली चीज पॉसिबल नहीं है। लेकिन देखें ये चीज पॉसिबल है। ऐसे क्लास A implements B C, right? Which means that I have a class A which implements two interfaces. So multiple interface implementation is possible, but multiple inheritance is not possible. So you can say in Java, when you introduce concept of interfaces, in a way you are achieving advantages of multiple inheritance, right? And certainly interfaces give you an opportunity to practice abstraction, because
Sir,
otherwise you can achieve abstraction with the help of inheritance, but with the help of abstract classes. But in abstract classes we can also have non-abstract methods, but in interfaces we will have only abstract methods.
सर फिर ये थोड़ा इलॉजिकल नहीं हो जाएगा? जैसे आपने बोला था कि इनहेरिटेंस में मतलब एक से ज्यादा पेरेंट नहीं होते, तो एक ही को हम मतलब एक्सटेंड कर सकते हैं, मल्टीपल नहीं होती, तो इसमें मल्टीपल जैसे हो रहे हैं, तो ये थोड़ा इलॉजिकल नहीं हो जाएगा?
बेटा मल्टीपल पेरेंट्स नहीं हो सकते हैं, लेकिन अम्मी और अब्बू तो हो सकते हैं ना। तो इस वजह से you can implement multiple interface. I mean, I can derive lot of properties from my two parents, mother and father. So yes, multiple inheritance तो possible नहीं है जावा में, लेकिन multiple interface implementation possible है। So जो multiple inheritance के कुछ advantage है जो कि real world में भी exist करते हैं, कि भाई you can inherit your property not only from your mother but also from your father. So it's a kind of multiple inheritance. So the advantages of multiple inheritance in a way indirectly can be accomplished by using implementation of interfaces.
ठीक है।
Mubin, you have question, go ahead.
सर आपने कहा कि इंटरफेस को हम इनिशिएट नहीं कर सकते, तो एक इंटरफेस होता है रनेबल इंटरफेस, तो उसको हम इस तरह कभी कभी क्लास में न्यू रनेबल इंटरफेस करते हैं, तो ऐसे क्यों होता है?
No, you cannot create object of runnable. माना ये मुमकिन नहीं है कि आप इस तरह से लिखें runnable equal to new runnable. No, you cannot do that. लेकिन होगा ये कि इसके अंदर ऑब्जेक्ट किसी क्लास का होगा जिसने रनेबल को इम्प्लीमेंट किया होगा। रनेबल एक ऐसा इंटरफेस है जो कि मेरे ख्याल में यूज फॉर थ्रेडिंग, फॉर मल्टी थ्रेडिंग, लेकिन यू कैन नॉट इंस्टेंशिएट इंटरफेस। फॉर एग्जांपल, इवन इन दिस एग्जांपल अगर आप देखें इस वाले एग्जांपल में भी मैंने माय इंटरफेस एमआई ऑब्जेक्ट इसका डाला है उस क्लास का जिसने इसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया है। फॉर एग्जांपल मैं ये नहीं कर सकता न्यू माय इंटरफेस, दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, ये चीज मैं नहीं कर सकता। आप देखें ये एरर होगा, ये कहेगा यू कैन नॉट इंस्टेंशिएट इट। यू कैन सी हियर जावा सी माय इंटरफेस इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कैन नॉट बी इंस्टेंशिएटेड, है ना, ये हम इंस्टेंशिएट नहीं कर सकते। इवन अगर आप रनेबल को यहाँ पर रनेबल को मैं डिस्कस नहीं करना चाहता क्योंकि जब हम मल्टी थ्रेडिंग पढ़ रहे हैं तो उस टाइम पे मैं तो थोड़ा डिस्कस कर लूंगा, लेकिन रनेबल इक्वल टू न्यू रनेबल, ये भी चीज पॉसिबल नहीं है कि आप रनेबल के अंदर इसका ऑब्जेक्ट रखें। यू कैन सी हियर अच्छा रनेबल कैन नॉट फाइंड सिंबल, क्यों रनेबल मेरे ख्याल में कौन से पैकेज में है, रनेबल इंटरफेस है वैसे जावा के अंदर, रनेबल इंटरफेस इन जावा।
सर स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक है।
हाँ ठीक है, डबल है रनेबल, वैसे मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा कि डबल इन में रनेबल। ओके CLS जावा सी यू कैन से रनेबल एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कैन नॉट बी इंस्टेंशिएटेड क्योंकि
सर ऐसे हो सकता है माय क्लास के रेफरेंस के अंदर हम इंटरफेस का ऑब्जेक्ट इंस्टेंशिएटेड करें।
क्या मकसद?
जैसे यहाँ पर माय इंटरफेस का रेफरेंस क्रिएट करें, यहाँ पर हम माय क्लास का रेफरेंस क्रिएट करें और यहाँ पर ऑब्जेक्ट जो है इंटरफेस वाला क्रिएट करें।
नहीं होगा ना, मैंने बताया ना कि आप यू कैन नॉट इंस्टेंशिएट इंटरफेस। आप ये अगर ये कहना चाहते हैं कि माय क्लास MIMC इक्वल टू न्यू माय इंटरफेस, आप ऐसे कह रहे हैं?
यस सर।
एब्सोल्युटली नॉट पॉसिबल, ये नहीं चलेगा। ये देखिए ना आप इंटरफेस को इंस्टेंशिएट नहीं कर सकते, ये पॉसिबल नहीं है। ये तो खैर एरर देगा इनकम्फर्टेबल टाइप, ये तो इंस्टेंशिएट का भी एरर देगा, इनकम्पेटेबल टाइप का भी देगा ना। माई इंटरफेस इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट एंड कैन नॉट बी इंस्टेंशिएटेड। क्या कह रहा है कि माई क्लास दिस, माई क्लास कैन नॉट फाइंड सिम माई, ओ सॉरी ये स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक है, माई क्लास so CLS Java C, my interface is absolutely cannot be instantiated. Simple, you cannot instantiate interface, क्योंकि इसी पीछे लॉजिक है ना कि यार उसके अंदर है ही कुछ नहीं, क्या आप उसका ऑब्जेक्ट क्यों बनाएंगे, उसके अंदर कुछ है ही नहीं तो आप उसका ऑब्जेक्ट क्यों बनाएंगे। ठीक है ना।
किसी पैरामीटर में ऐसे ही पास कर सकते हैं, न्यू माई क्लास, न्यू माई इंटरफेस?
No, you can never use keyword new with interface. You can only declare its reference. जैसे ये हमने reference इसका बनाया हुआ है, इसके अलावा इसका और कोई यूज नहीं है। Okay, great, excellent. So I think we understand the basic concept of interface. Another way of abstraction and polymorphism uses keyword interface. Multiple inheritance के साथ इसका जो connection है वो मैंने आपको समझा दिया। This is the structure. We've already seen example, so you understand this structure, right? Default methods कुछ अभी उन्होंने after JDK 8 डालना शुरू कर दिए हैं। स्टैटिक इंटरफेस भी मैं इसका एग्जांपल आपको दूंगा आखिर में। वेरिएबल इन इंटरफेस दे आर फाइनल एंड दे आर स्टैटिक implicitly. All methods and variable are implicitly public, so when you implement the method, you know you're gonna change access modifier. We've already discussed this thing. Implementing an interface, you need keyword implements, and multiple interface can be implemented by a class. We've already discussed it, right? We have seen this simple example. Now partial implementation. In such cases, class itself should be declared abstract. Maybe I can now let us understand this concept of interface with some more concrete and useful examples. Say for example, I say I'm creating an interface, and the name of that is, say for example, my stack. Now when it is a stack, you know that what should be, when it is a stack, you know that what should be functionalities inside an stack. We have been covering this from our early classes. Then inside a stack we should have a push method as well as pop method, right? So because we are at the level of interface, so what I say that a stack should have a push method, void push and value, right? And then it should also have a pop method, right? So integer, a pop method. Right. So what we say that we have an interface with the name my stack, and it will have two methods. One is push and other is pop. Right. So any class which is going to implement my stack, it has to give implementation of push and pop method. First of all, let's compile this interface. CLS Java C my stack. I have not saved it. Let me first save it. The name is my stack dot Java. Right. Java C my stack dot Java. So you can see it has been compiled. Now, if I have, say for example, a class, if I have a class, say for I say maybe I call it static stack, or maybe I can call it simple stack. Do not confuse keyword static. Okay? So I say I've got a simple stack, and this implements my stack. Now, you know, it is the responsibility of this simple stack to give implementation